Scripture, love is not possession. Scripture's picture of love is not ownership. 1 Corinthians 13 describes love as patient, kind, and not insisting on its own way. That is especially important when attraction becomes strong. Wanting commitment, loyalty, and exclusivity can be healthy with the right relationship, but love cannot become control. A person can want to be chosen without believing they are entitled to another person's choice. Patience leaves room for another human being to exercise their own will. With that said, I am really more of like an attached person. Like, if the person wants to stay wrapped on me all day, I'm cool with that. Probably would prefer it. Unless I'm editing. But then you could just like wrap my shoulders. And that's probably true about a lot of what I'm saying. Sometimes I have a thought and it contains 10 different meanings. I'll give someone advice about aggression, and when I say aggressive, I might mean 15 different versions of aggression, 7 different interpretations, 13 examples, and 3 biblical references. That's how my mind works. I don't always think about one layer. I think about multiple layers simultaneously. And sometimes that's frustrating because I feel like I'm trying to explain the entire structure underneath an idea while the other person is responding to the surface. I've experienced that with family. I'll try to explain something and I feel like the other person is responding to only a fraction of what I'm actually saying. And then someone else hears the conversation and says, "Yeah, that's exactly how I feel." Meaning, like, if you're watching this, or if, like, you're in a group. But then they may be connecting with only one part of what I meant. That's why intelligence, or perhaps more accurately, depth and willingness to understand, has become attractive to me. I want someone who can listen, someone who can explore an idea, someone who isn't afraid to say, "Wait, explain that further." I don't want every conversation to become a chess match. Sometimes I just want to talk. But I want someone who can go deep when the subject requires it. I've always been fascinated by obsessive excellence. Kobe wanted obsession. People at the top of different fields often become extraordinarily committed to becoming the best. At the same time, I've always looked around and wondered how people who seem completely unprepared can end up in positions of enormous responsibility. And that brings me back to the same question. How do people decide what is true? How do people decide what is right? How do people become convinced? And how do people follow? And that's why, for me, Scripture eventually becomes the foundation. Not my intelligence, not my predictions, my anger, my ambitions, not even my interpretation of other people's behavior. Scripture.